This being your third season, it seems like you've been a lot more assertive or spicy this year.
Spicy? So?
I don't know, spicy. That's good. I mean, I feel like for me, it's just my approach. It's just coming in and just trying to be dominant in anything the team needs. And so if that gives off spicy, which I really don't think it does, I feel like I'm like kind of quiet.
Spice?
No, I just not spicy. Huh? But yeah, I feel like that's just been my mindset, is just coming in and just being the player that I need to be for us. Whatever that looks like, it looks like.
What do a locker room mantra, a dominant blowout, and a hard-earned playoff berth all have in common? For the Indiana Fever, the answer is simple: everything. Their 94-65 thrashing of the Washington Mystics wasn't just another win on the schedule. It was a statement of survival, grit, and defiance wrapped into one unforgettable night. And right in the heart of it, Aliyah Boston delivered a post-game line that lit up the locker room, sent teammates into a frenzy, and left fans desperate to hear every word. What exactly did she say? And why has that mindset become the driving force behind Indiana's improbable playoff push, even without superstar Caitlin Clark and 4 other key contributors? Stay locked in, because this is about far more than basketball. If you're hyped for the postseason, drop a Fever playoffs in the comments. The road to glory starts now.
Playoff! Dub!
How we clinch, baby!
We can't! W. Playoff!
Bow!
Yeah! Playoff, baby!
Mitchell in transition. Lays that up and in for our first bucket of the game. Sims off the cross again into the paint, lays it up and in.
How does a playoff caliber team lose nearly half its rotation and still manage to stay afloat? That's been the incredible story of the Indiana Fever this season. Their roster didn't just take a small hit, it was completely gutted. Caitlin Clark, the electric sophomore who was expected to usher in a new era of Fever basketball, went down after just 13 games with a devastating torn groin. Sophie Cunningham was sidelined with a knee injury. Chloe Bby's season ended with another knee injury. Sydney Carlson was forced to sit out, and Ari McDonald's campaign was cut short by a foot injury. 5 key players, 5 critical pieces of the puzzle, all gone. For most teams, that would spell collapse. But for Indiana, it became the ultimate test of resilience and identity.
When you think back to the beginning of the season, if someone were to tell you, like, this is where you could be, this is your team, like, at the end of the season, like, genuinely, what do you think the reaction would be?
Probably no stinking way. I don't think, thinking back to the beginning of the season, that anyone would have ever foreseen it going like this.
Clark's injury delivered the harshest blow of all. She wasn't just putting up over 16 points per game. She was setting the tone for the entire offense, creating plays that made Fever fans believe the postseason wasn't just a dream, it was the expectation. So when the news broke that she was done for the year, the shockwave wasn't confined to Indiana. It shook the entire basketball world. The once-packed Gainbridge Fieldhouse suddenly felt quieter as fans asked the inevitable question: how could this team possibly keep pace without its brightest star? Analysts wasted no time declaring the Fever's playoff hopes dead on arrival, framing her absence as the end of the story.
Even if things looked like it got harder, for us it was about sticking together, and I think through everything you're able to see that, us play with joy, us play together regardless of who's on that floor.
And it wasn't just Clark's absence that defined this season. The endless carousel of hardship signings turned Indiana's roster into something that felt less like a team and more like a moving train, players hopping on and off just to keep it going. By the time the dust settled, 18 different players had suited up in a Fever jersey. Picture taking a team photo on opening night, then looking back halfway through the season and realizing nearly every face has changed. Odyssey Sims flying in on short notice, Shot Petty suddenly logging major minutes, Aerial Powers clawing out a role. This wasn't some carefully crafted strategy. It was pure survival mode. And survival, more often than not, doesn't end with a playoff push. But Indiana refused to follow that script.
For whatever reason, things happen, and you've got to continue to put your best foot forward. You got to continue to stay the course. This group has been forced to grow strong roots, and teams can go one of two ways when those things happen. You either use it to pull you together and as motivation to continue to get better and do it for one another and do it for your teammates that have been lost to injury, or it pulls some teams apart.
That's where Stephanie White's leadership completely changed the trajectory of the season. Even as her roster was stripped bare, she never hit the panic button. Instead, she simplified the system, tightened the rotations, and got everyone zeroed in on the fundamentals that mattered most. White even admitted that her coaching staff had to get creative, thinking outside the box to squeeze every bit of production from the pieces they still had. She didn't pretend the adversity wasn't there. She embraced it. She reminded her team daily just how tough and resilient they were, both physically and mentally, and the players bought in. What could have been a collapse turned into a rallying point, and her steady hand kept the Fever's season alive.
When I look at this group, I'm just so incredibly thankful for the type of people that we have in this locker room, for the way that they have been able to continue to stay the course and bounce back and stay together, to pull for one another, to really be flexible enough to make space for different types of teams that we've had throughout the course of the year, and to continue to put ourselves in position.
By August, the doubts that once surrounded this team had transformed into something far more powerful: resilience. What many expected to be Indiana's downfall became its secret weapon. No superstar to lean on. They adapted. Every single player on the roster learned to carry the load, turning individual pressure into a collective strength. That "next woman up" mantra, which began as a desperate measure, evolved into the team's very identity. And when they brought that mindset to Washington, all the toughness and grit they had been forced to build throughout the season finally erupted, not just in effort, but in pure, undeniable dominance.
Inside Howard, off the window, the bucket, and the foul. Heady three, knocks it down again. Lost the handle, gets it back, gets right to the hoop, and she drops it home.
Fever 94, Mystics 65. Indiana's in. And now you know, despite all the adversity, this incredibly resilient Fever team is going back to the playoffs in 2025.
Heartbreak turned into firepower for the Indiana Fever, and they unleashed all of it on the Washington Mystics. Their 29-point beatdown didn't just put points on the board, it sent a league-wide notice. This was the win that punched their playoff ticket and reminded everyone that Caitlin Clark might be out, but Indiana's heart is still beating loud. Early on, though, it felt like anything but a blowout. Washington came out sharp, making Indiana work for every possession and trading buckets to keep the game tense. The Fever's offense struggled to find its rhythm, and the tension in the arena was impossible to miss. With Clark, Cunningham, McDonald, BBY, and Carlson all missing, the doubt was real. Would Indiana hang on, or let the night and their playoff hopes slip away?
And more than anything, y'all, big picture-wise, this group, there would have been so many teams that would have folded with all we've been through. And we just kept getting better, and we kept getting tougher, and we kept becoming more resilient, and we kept figuring things out, right? Like, we've had like 7 new teams throughout the course of this season. and no matter what, we've been flexible, we've been accountable, we've put each other in positions to be successful, and we've continued to put one foot forward and stayed the course.
When halftime ended, the game still felt up for grabs, but the third quarter changed everything. Indiana came out of the locker room with a different energy and completely flipped the script. Their defense didn't just slow Washington down, it smothered them. The Mystics were held to a jaw-dropping 9 points in the entire quarter. 9 points. That wasn't just an off-night shooting, it was a full-on defensive chokehold. Passing lanes were clogged, every shot was contested, and Washington looked rattled. Indiana, meanwhile, turned that intensity into fuel, attacking on both ends like a team that refused to be denied. The lead didn't just grow, it exploded, first past 20, then past 25, eventually peaking at a 33-point margin that left no doubt about who owned the night.
You just don't know what she's going to do. I mean, she's so crafty with her shot decisions. Howard right to the hoop high out the window. And she's slicing through that paint. Angela back tapped it. It ends up with aerial Powers inside. Howard off the window, the bucket, and the foul by the rookie all-star Sonia Citron. Howard quickly back the other way tonight, back at 34.
The box score painted part of the picture, but the Real story lived in the moments on the floor. Natasha Howard delivered exactly what Indiana needed, exactly when they needed it. She poured in a game-high 17 points and turned every touch near the rim into punishment for Washington. Whether it was bullying her way inside for a finish or crashing the glass to create second chances, Howard set the tone and made sure the Mystics felt her presence all night.
Dolson had to stay home because she had an occupied side. In terms of a cutter in her area, she stayed. Petty three, knocks it down again. Flip it. He's just such a solid stabilizer for Washington. Howard right to the hoop, lays it up and in. Fourth foul on Austin. Boston down low. Double tongue, drops back to Howard, who lays it up and in.
Aliyah Boston once again showcased her trademark dominance, posting yet another double-double with 12 points and 11 rebounds. Her impact went beyond the stat sheet. She owned the paint on both ends, shutting down Washington's inside game while giving Indiana second-chance opportunities and a physical edge that set the tone for the entire night.
So Craves in there, get off and get loose. Mitchell three off the mark, long rebound ends up with Sims. It's Sims, nice pocket pass. Boston foul line jumper.
And just when it felt like Indiana might need an extra push to seal the deal, Aerial Powers came off the bench and completely ignited the game. She poured in 15 points, grabbed 6 rebounds, and dished out 4 assists, playing with the kind of fire that kept the Fever's momentum alive. Powers looked every bit like the spark plug, refusing to let the intensity drop for even a second and making sure Washington never had a chance to breathe.
Got that rebound. Here's Powers. Lost the handle, gets it back, gets right to the hoop. There she drops it home. 8 on the shot clock here for Citron. So re-screen that. And then they got the switch they want. Oh, couldn't get it in. Tough turnover there for Washington. The loose ball collected by Dolson as Citron brings it over half. Powers in the passing lane. No one to beat. Lays it up and in. See if they can get back to that and connect plays and stack possessions with that level of effectiveness.
And just when it felt like Indiana might need an extra push to seal the deal, Aerial Powers came off the bench and completely ignited the game. She poured in 15 points, grabbed 6 rebounds, and dished out 4 assists, playing with the kind of fire that kept the Fever's momentum alive. Powers looked every bit like the spark plug, refusing to let the intensity drop for even a second and making sure Washington never had a chance to breathe.
Of finishing plays. Here's Paul, guarded by Citron. Hanging, fading, kicks off the glass. My goodness. Be better served. Maybe 4 out 1 end and have him take turns with it. Oh. Clips and 3.
Shayla Petty delivered a perfect shooting night, knocking down all 3 of her attempts from beyond the arc and finishing with 13 points. It wasn't just efficient, it was timely, stretching Washington's defense and keeping Indiana's offense humming. And she wasn't alone. Every single role player who stepped onto the floor found a way to make an impact, turning this game into a complete team statement rather than just a win.
Sims is also back for the Fever. Here's Petty in the corner. He knocks it down. Jay Petty also spent time here.
Even on a night when her shot wasn't falling, Kelsey Mitchell found a way to make her presence felt, chipping in 10 points and bringing poise to the backcourt when it mattered most. And when you glanced at the final box score, the story was clear. 5 different Fever players had scored in double figures. That kind of balanced attack is rare in the Wnba, but it was precisely what this short-handed Indiana squad needed to get the job done.
Thanks to Alicia Clark and Jade Stevens with the philosophy and culture and playing with joy as being the top tier point of emphasis there. Mitchell in transition lays that up and in for our first bucket of the game.
Statistically, it was the turnover battle that buried Washington. The Mystics gave the ball away 22 times, and Indiana turned those mistakes into a devastating 27 points. On the other end, the Fever were nearly flawless, committing just 6 turnovers all night, leaving Washington with no real chance to wrestle momentum back. It wasn't just about the scoring margin. It was about how Indiana squeezed the life out of the Mystics, punishing every misstep and draining every ounce of hope from the game.
I'm so proud of you guys. I mean, this was, we owned them in the second half. Hell yeah! 27 total points we held them to in the second half. 27 points off of turnovers. Hell yeah! And we took care of it. Only 7 turnovers for us. A complete team effort, y'all. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players in double figures. I mean, it was just all really good stuff. Really good stuff.
So where does this team look now, with their superstar cheering from the sidelines in street clothes? The answer is finally coming into focus. And it isn't just about one person stepping up, though one player has clearly become the heartbeat of this group. Aliyah Boston has taken center stage, not only with her play, but with her presence. After the playoff-clinching win in Washington, she showed exactly why she might be the anchor Indiana needs more than ever. The moment the game ended, Boston's words carried the same weight as her double-double. She didn't just dominate on the court. She delivered a message that had teammates buzzing and fans cheering. The mantra she shared wasn't just talk. It captured the spirit of this team's fight and the belief that has carried them through a brutal season.
Aliyah, just through the adversity that you guys went through this season, especially maybe in August when people were going down left and right, did you guys feel like this was always possible to make the playoffs? Did you ever have moments of concern or doubt? And what allowed you guys to just keep, the eyes on the prize more or less?
Yeah, I think, just being someone in this locker room, you never doubt yourself and what you're capable of, no matter what happens. I think the entire staff, up to the head, just made great decisions when people went down on who to bring in, the type of people to bring in. And that was really our mindset. We never doubted ourselves. We never doubted that we could be in the playoffs. Even if things looked like it got harder, for us, it was about sticking together. And I think through everything, you're able to see that, us play with joy, us play together, regardless of who's on that floor.
Boston has always carried herself with polish and poise, but what she's doing this season feels like a new level entirely. Against the Mystics, she delivered yet another double-double, her 17th of the season, breaking the franchise record and setting a new standard. To put it in perspective, she now has 41 career double-doubles in just 2 seasons, a level of consistency that most veterans struggle to reach. But this year, her production has been more than just impressive, it's been essential. With a roster that's been shuffled and reshuffled by injuries, Boston has been the stabilizing force keeping Indiana afloat. She closed the night with 12 points, 11 rebounds, and 5 assists while leading the team with a staggering plus 29. Those might read like stats on paper, but on the court, they meant something bigger. The Fever were at their absolute best every time Aliyah Boston was on the floor.
Likes to get into their offense. You see Jade Melvin getting that defensive assignment on Mitchell. She picked her up pretty much 3/4 court. Boston baseline jumper falls. That's the advantage with Mitchell guarding her. 11-0 run right now for Washington. Boston got that baseline, misses, gets her own, and finishes.
Without Clark, this was never just about finding someone to pick up the scoring slack. Points can come from anywhere. What Indiana needed was a backbone, and Aliyah Boston became exactly that. She turned into the steady pulse that kept this team's heartbeat strong. She hunted down every loose rebound, held her ground in the paint against Washington's drives, and whipped out quick, smart passes that set her teammates up for easy buckets. She wasn't just the center by position. She became the center of everything Indiana is trying to be, the anchor around which their entire identity now revolves.
And how would you describe the locker room after the game today, just being able to sell?
Well, we did make a TikTok, so I think everyone is just super excited. Like you said, it hasn't been a perfect road, and so for us, it's enjoying the little moments while at the same time understanding we have another game on Tuesday, and then we have to prepare for the playoffs. But I think just being in the moment and being where our feet are and kind of just enjoying this one.
Picture the locker room after that statement win. The air thick with sweat, adrenaline, and relief. The Fever had just clinched the playoffs, and the emotions were pouring out. Players were laughing, hugging, some even tearing up, knowing just how brutal the journey had been. Caitlin Clark stood on the sidelines in street clothes. Sophie, Ari, Chloe, and Sydney were all still stuck in recovery. Yet this moment belonged to the team that had survived it all. And right in the middle of it, Aliyah Boston gathered her teammates, her voice cutting through the noise. "Never doubt yourself and what you're capable of," she told them. It wasn't just a pep talk. You could see it sink in. The very next game, they played like a group that believed every word. Lexi Hull was diving across the floor for loose balls, Shayla Petty was cashing in from deep, and Ariel Powers was coming off the bench like a burst of instant offense. That single message became more than a sentence. It became the invisible force shoving the Fever forward. Fans picked it up too, flooding social media with Boston's words, turning them into a rallying cry. Suddenly, it wasn't just her reminder to the team. It was a challenge to everyone watching. Never doubt what this group can do, no matter how steep the odds.
Another piece of glass for the finish there. Boston seal inside, comes right back for the finish.
Boston's impact stretches far beyond the box score or even a single post-game speech. For a young team, it would have been easy to get caught up in the celebration of making their first playoff appearance since 2016. But when asked about the locker room vibe, Boston gave a quick laugh and said, "Well, we did make a TikTok," before instantly flipping back into leader mode. She acknowledged the excitement, but made sure to remind everyone that the job wasn't done yet. The next game and the playoffs still demanded focus and preparation. That ability to balance pure joy with unwavering discipline is rare, especially on a roster this young. Boston showed that she can let her teammates enjoy the moment without losing sight of the bigger picture. It's that mix of fun and focus that keeps Indiana grounded and dangerous heading into the postseason. Aliyah Boston is proving she's not just a rising star. She's becoming the voice and backbone of this franchise. She's the anchor that steadies the group when everything feels chaotic. If Caitlin Clark is the spark that grabs headlines, Boston is the foundation that holds the entire structure together. And as Indiana charges into the postseason, the toughness and belief she's instilled aren't just fueling this playoff run. They're laying the groundwork for a culture that could define the Fever for years to come. Here's the twist nobody's talking about. What if this brutal season of injuries turned out to be the best thing that could have happened to them? From the outside, it looked like a nightmare. 5 players lost to season-ending injuries, their superstars sidelined, and a roster that seemed to change every week. And yet, here they are, playoff berth secured as the 7th seed, celebrating back-to-back postseason appearances for the first time since 2015 to 2016. With one more step, they could even climb into the 6th seed, proving that adversity didn't break them, it forged them.
And we ain't done yet. We ain't done yet. Okay, we got another one on Tuesday, and in the playoffs, ain't nobody gonna want to see us. Nobody. No one is gonna want to see us. That's right. Nobody. I'm not gonna sing it, but yes. Okay. So we continue to focus on competing to the standard, preparing to the standard. All right, and then we scare the hell out of this league. Hell yeah. Come on. Here we go. Hell yeah. 3, 1, 2, 3. Hell yeah.
The road ahead isn't going to be easy. Indiana's likely first-round opponents, Atlanta, Las Vegas, or Phoenix, are all heavy hitters. In a best-of-3 series, 2 of those games will be on the road, which makes the challenge even steeper. Normally, heading into the playoffs without your top scorer would feel like a death sentence. But this Fever team has already proven they can go toe-to-toe with every one of those opponents. They've beaten each of them in the regular season, and they did it with the same short-handed roster they're taking into the postseason now. For fans in Indiana, though, the most exciting part isn't just the matchup. It's what's coming back to Gainbridge Fieldhouse. The Fever are guaranteed at least one home playoff game, their first since 2016. Nearly a decade has passed since playoff basketball lit up Indianapolis, and this group has earned the right to bring it back. The reason is simple. They've learned how to win together. The Washington game was the perfect example. 5 different players hit double figures, showing that this offense doesn't need one hero to survive. That balance makes Indiana unpredictable, harder to prepare for, and more dangerous than their record might suggest.
I feel proud. I feel proud of these women and what they've been able to continue to do. I feel proud that we continue to raise the standard for ourselves and for one another.
But I'm also, I look at this group and the roots that have been grown throughout the course of this season, and thinking about, not just where we are now and the opportunity that we have in the playoffs, but where we're going to be in the future.
Across this season, 18 different players suited up in a Fever jersey, and that revolving door ended up building something unexpected, a roster that can plug anyone into big minutes without losing its identity. Lexi Hull and Shayla Petty stepped into roles no one saw coming. Natasha Howard and Ariel Powers provided steady veteran presence, and Kelsey Mitchell and Aliyah Boston gained playoff experience as go-to leaders rather than just supporting pieces. In a strange way, Caitlin Clark's absence became an opportunity for everyone else to grow. When she returns in 2026, she'll be joining a locker room that already has championship DNA and battle-tested chemistry. The narrative flipped completely. The injuries that many assumed would sink Indiana instead forged a tougher, deeper, and more dangerous playoff team than they were at full strength. This season tested the Fever in ways nobody could have predicted. It stripped them down to their core, and what remained wasn't weakness. It was grit, depth, and unshakable belief. For the first time since 2015, Indiana owns a winning record and a playoff berth, proof that the identity they built under pressure is very real. Fans shouldn't see this as just survival. It's the beginning of something bigger. The postseason is here, the momentum is real, and the foundation is stronger than ever. And it leaves us with one huge question. If this is what they can do with half a roster, what happens when they're finally whole again? If you're hyped for the Fever's playoff run, drop a Fever Playoffs in the comments. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on all notifications so you never miss a moment of this historic journey. The Fever are just getting started, and you'll want to be here for every second of it.